My name is Alea, and I'm going to be talking or informing you about our flag being raised in Havana, Cuba in 2015, August 14th, 2015. So first, in my speech, I will be discussing why our flag was taken down originally. Second, I will discuss the announcement of our flag going back up by Barack Obama and Raul Castro in Havana, Cuba. And finally, I'm going to discuss the aftermath of our countries coming back together. So first, I'm going to start my speech off with a quote said by Gerald Stanley Lee. "America is a tune, it must be sung together." I think this quote ties in very well with my speech because our countries are coming back together after 50 plus years of really bad tension, and then all that history of the war and everything like that. I have done much research and read many government articles to be able to explain why or what really happened and how it started and why we were able to get our flag raised again. So America is known to be the country of peace, freedom, and dreams. And it is important to keep that peace, especially with other countries, due to them attacking or creating war, fatalities, everything like that that comes with it. So America needs these alliances and not enemies to work, and they also need to work really hard to keep them together, and that's starting with Cuba. So I'm first going to discuss why our flag was taken down in Havana, Cuba. So in 1961, 3 of our U.S. Marines were informed to take down the flag, and CRF.org gives information by stating that Cuba and the U.S. shared imports, and Fidel Castro started to raise taxes on those imported goods and began to come together with the Soviet Union. So with that being said, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was our president at that time, fired back and froze off the imports completely from the United States. And when freezing them off, this means no more imported goods from Cuba and from us going to Cuba, and that means also, and he also cut off the diplomatic ties with them. So this led our flag coming down after, and then the hostile tension of 50 years. So next I'll be discussing the announcement of Barack Obama and Raul Castro and them coming together and raising our flag back up once again. So in August 14th of 2015 was the day that America would reunite with Cuba again, and with our flag being raised. And then with the most important part of that event was they had the same men that took down our flag raise it back up again. So when this event took place, both Cubans and Americans filled up the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba, which meant that there was 300 plus people attending the ceremony. Most of the attendees were Cubans that were proudly waving their flags, says Felicia Swartz in her writing in the Wall Street Journal. So the 3 Navy SEALs were Larry Morris, Mike East, and Jim Tracy. And then Himalaya Abdul wrote in an article for the NBC News, and he quoted the Secretary of State, John Kerry, who said that Larry, Mike, and Jim had done their jobs and they kept their promise on raising the flag once again. And this was a very special moment for these men because they kept their promise with each other and also America. And the final point I'll be making in my speech is the aftermath. So since raising our flag again in Cuba, we have maintained a stable relationship until this day. The United States seeks to keep a free country for the Cuban people, and this was said by the U.S. Department of State. CFR.org also stated that Obama removes Cuba from terrorism list, and this allowed traveling from the U.S. to Cuba and vice versa, and it was open and available to all citizens. Another benefit of restoring ties is the trade. So the trade of keeping food, any type of important products coming from Cuba and also to America. And this was a big deal because this was the first thing that we lost when taking our flag down and starting the war. So in conclusion to my speech, after a long war that lasted 50 years, we can say that in 2015 we ended it, and America thanked Barack Obama for cutting this tension off with them and communicating with Raul Castro and getting our flag raised back up in Havana, Cuba, which represents our alliance. So I'm glad to say that after going into depth with the war, it can be really scary to have to not have support from other countries, because it is important that we don't have any type of hatred that could possibly start a war and lead to death, fatality, or death, injuries, or anything like that with our countries. And then with that being said, in 2015, if we didn't have someone who cared as much as Barack Obama, we would still have this war and this tension with Cuba that can lead to many different possibilities that is important that we don't have. And so I'm going to end my speech with another quote that was said by our former president, John F. Kennedy. And he said it best by saying, "Our alliance is born not of fear, but of hope, and is an alliance of what we are for and is what we are opposed of what we are against." So that is the end of my speech, and I hope you like it. Bye.